I never thought someone could make me feel safe just by standing close enough that I could hear them breathing. But that's what happened the night Marcus buttoned my shirt with those careful, deliberate fingers, while my own hands shook so badly I couldn't trust them to do anything right. It was the night of my father's memorial service, not the funeral. That had been 3 weeks earlier, surrounded by people I barely knew, offering condolences that felt like paper cuts. This was the private gathering my mom had organized for his closest friends and colleagues, the people who actually knew him, the people who had stories I'd never heard, and memories that didn't include me. I was supposed to give a speech, 5 minutes, about the man who taught me to ride a bike, who took me fishing exactly twice before deciding we weren't that kind of family, who worked 70-hour weeks and came home too tired to ask about my day. 5 minutes about a relationship I'd spent 28 years trying to understand and never quite managed. I'd written something, revised it maybe 40 times, had it memorized, but standing in my childhood bedroom staring at myself in the same mirror where I'd practiced asking girls to prom and rehearsed college interviews, I couldn't remember a single word. My hands were shaking. Not the subtle tremor you can hide by keeping your hands in your pockets. This was the full-body kind of shaking that starts in your chest and radiates outward until you feel like you're coming apart at the seams. I'd gotten my pants on fine, socks, shoes, even the belt, but the shirt, this crisp white dress shirt my mom had pressed and hung on my door. I'd managed 3 buttons before my fingers stopped cooperating entirely. I stood there, shirt hanging open, staring at my reflection and feeling like the most incompetent adult who'd ever lived. That's when Marcus knocked. 3 soft taps, then his voice. "Hey, can I come in?" We'd been together for 8 months, long enough that he had a drawer at my apartment, long enough that he'd met my parents twice, though my father had barely acknowledged him beyond a handshake and a nod. Long enough that when I'd gotten the call about Dad's heart attack, Marcus was the first person I reached for. But this, standing half-dressed and falling apart in my childhood bedroom, this felt different, more vulnerable than any of the ways he'd already seen me. "Yeah," I managed to say. He opened the door slowly, like he was giving me time to change my mind. He was already dressed. Dark gray suit that fit him perfectly, white shirt, navy tie. He looked put together in a way I couldn't imagine achieving. His eyes went to my open shirt, then to my hands, then to my face. He didn't say anything about the tears I could feel building behind my eyes. Didn't ask if I was okay, which was good because I would have had to lie. Instead, he just walked over and stood in front of me, close enough that I could smell his cologne, something woody and clean that I'd come to associate with safety. "Can I help?" he asked quietly. I nodded. Didn't trust my voice. He reached for the bottom of my shirt, fingers brushing against my stomach as he found the lowest undone button. His hands were steady, warm. He worked slowly, threading each button through its hole, with the kind of patience I didn't know I needed. "I can't do this," I whispered, "and the speech. I don't know what to say about him." Marcus didn't look up from the buttons, just kept working, moving from one to the next with that same careful attention. "You don't have to say anything you don't feel. Everyone's expecting this perfect eulogy about what an amazing father he was, about how much he meant to me. And what did he mean to you?" The question hit me harder than I expected. Marcus had finished buttoning, but he didn't step back. His hands rested against my chest, right over my heart, which was hammering so hard I knew he could feel it. "I don't know," I admitted. "I spent my whole life trying to be what he wanted, went to his alma mater, took the job at his firm. Even the apartment I live in is in the building he recommended, and I still don't know if he was proud of me, if he even really knew me." Marcus's thumb moved in a small circle against my chest. Just this tiny gesture that somehow kept me from flying apart completely. He never asked about you, I continued. About us. When I told him I was seeing someone, he just nodded and changed the subject. Like it didn't matter. Like you didn't matter. Hey. Marcus's hand moved to my face, tilting my chin up so I had to look at him. His eyes were this deep brown that always seemed to see more than I wanted to show. This isn't about me. This is about you and what you needed from him that you didn't get. I needed him to see me, I said, and saying it out loud felt like breaking something open inside my chest. I needed him to ask questions, to care about my life beyond whether I was making partner or buying property. I needed him to meet you and actually want to know who you are, what you do, why you make me laugh. I needed him to see that I'm happy, even if my happiness doesn't look like his did. The tears came then, not dramatic sobbing, just this quiet overflow that I couldn't stop. Marcus pulled me against his chest, and I let him hold me while I cried for the father I had and the father I'd wanted and the gap between them that I'd never be able to close now. You don't have to pretend, Marcus said into my hair. Not down there, not in your speech. You can tell the truth about who he was to you, the complicated truth. What if people judge me? Then they judge you. But at least you'll have been honest. At least you won't have to carry around words you didn't mean. I pulled back enough to look at him. When did you get so wise? He smiled, just a little. I had a father who didn't see me either. Took me years to stop trying to earn his approval. I don't want that for you. I don't want you to spend the rest of your life wondering what you could have done differently. What did you do? How did you let it go? I started building a life that was mine, not his version of what my life should be, and I started surrounding myself with people who actually see me. His hand came up to my face again, wiping away the tears with his thumb. Like you see me. The thing is, I did see him. I saw how he always ordered his coffee the same way, but tried something different when we went to new restaurants. How he read the last page of books first, because he needed to know how things ended. How he called his mom every Sunday without fail. How he laughed at stupid puns and cried at dog videos and sang off key in the shower. And he saw me. Saw past the lawyer exterior to the guy who still slept with a nightlight sometimes, who collected vintage postcards, who wanted kids someday but was terrified he'd mess them up the way he felt messed up. I don't know how to give a speech about him, I said, but I know how to tell the truth. Then tell that. Marcus straightened my collar, smoothed down the front of my shirt. His hands lingered at my shoulders. You look good, he said. You ready? I wasn't, but I also was, if that makes any sense. Will you stand where I can see you? I asked. When I'm talking? I'll be right there, front row. We went downstairs together. The house was full of people. My mom's friends bringing casseroles, my dad's colleagues drinking scotch in the living room, my aunt directing everyone like she was running a military operation. My mom found me in the hallway. She looked smaller than I remembered. Older. She touched my face the way she used to when I was little and had nightmares. You okay, baby? Getting there. She looked at Marcus, then back at me. Your father. She paused, choosing words carefully. He loved you. He just didn't know how to show it. His own father was so hard on him. I think he thought being distant was being strong. I know, Mom. But you're not him. You don't have to be like him. You can be softer. You can let people in. Her eyes went to Marcus again, and there was something in her expression. Understanding, maybe, or approval. I'm glad you have someone who takes care of you. I felt Marcus's hand find mine, just briefly, just long enough to squeeze. When it was time for the speeches, I stood at the front of the living room with everyone's eyes on me. I found Marcus right where he said he'd be, front row, watching me with that steady gaze that made me feel like I could do hard things. I didn't give the speech I'd written. I told them the truth instead. I talked about a father who worked hard and provided well, who taught me the value of education and persistence, who showed me what dedication looked like, even if it meant sacrificing time together. I talked about the distance between us, about the questions I wished I'd asked and the conversations we never had, about how grief is complicated when the relationship was complicated, and I talked about what I was learning, that you can love someone and still wish things had been different, that you can grieve not just the person you lost, but the relationship you never got to have, that it's okay to tell the truth about it all. I saw people crying, some nodding, some. My mom's face was this mix of sadness and something else. Relief, maybe, like she'd been waiting for someone to say it out loud. When I finished, Marcus was the first one to stand, and then others followed. Not a standing ovation exactly, more like people rising up to meet the honesty with honesty of their own. Afterwards, people came up to me. Some told me I was brave. Others shared their own complicated father stories. A few looked uncomfortable, like I'd broken some unspoken rule about speaking well of the dead. But Marcus stayed close, and when someone's comment hit too hard or I felt myself starting to shake again, his hand would find the small of my back, just this gentle pressure that said, "I'm here. You're not alone." Later that night, after everyone had left and my mom had gone to bed, Marcus and I sat on the back porch of my childhood home. The same porch where I'd had my first kiss, where I'd told my parents I was going to law school, where I'd sat the night before I moved out, wondering who I was supposed to become. "Thank you," I said, "for the shirt, for everything. You did the hard part. We did it together, though. That's what made it possible." He leaned his head on my shoulder. We sat there in the quiet, listening to crickets and distant traffic and each other breathing. "I love you," I said, the first time I'd said it out loud, though I'd known it for weeks, maybe months. Marcus lifted his head to look at me. "Yeah? Yeah. I love you too." He said it simply, like it was the easiest truth in the world. And maybe it was. Maybe after all the complicated truths about fathers and expectations and who we're supposed to be, love could be the simple thing. The thing that didn't require performance or pretending. The thing that showed up when your hands were shaking and buttoned your shirt slowly, carefully, like you were worth taking time for. We sat there until the mosquitoes drove us inside. And then we went upstairs to my childhood bedroom, and Marcus helped me out of that shirt, the same way he'd helped me into it. With patience, with care, with the kind of attention that made me feel seen. I'd spent so long trying to be seen by someone who couldn't, and here was someone who saw me without my even having to ask, who steadied me when I shook, who stood witness to my truth without asking me to make it prettier. That's the thing about love, I think. Real love. It doesn't ask you to have it all together. It shows up when you're falling apart and helps you button your shirt. Slowly, like you've got all the time in the world, like you're worth every second. Total char count, 12,147.